Day of decision is winding down. Polls close in 2 hours.
And when they opened at 10 this morning, the lineups were long. A record turnout at the polls is expected.
Good evening. Well, Canada is holding its collective breath as Quebecers continue to vote in massive numbers in this referendum.
The latest polls show the race is still too close to call, with about 500,000 voters still undecided as of this morning. More than 5 million Quebecers are eligible to vote. Jennifer Fraser took a look at how the day's gone.
And who was 16? And come on down.
They arrived in droves, ready to cast their ballots on the future of Quebec. And with voter turnout expected to be record high, there was some tension in the air. Partisan voters were asked to leave their politics at the door. And others were even asked to remove their poppies, because they represent a political statement.
I don't think so. They don't have to, won't.
Voters gave election particulars mixed reviews.
Very well, not a long wait at all.
There were some inconsistencies in terms of polling stations. Some ran extremely well, while others, like this one in downtown Montreal, seem to have no organization.
I think they're doing it as slowly as they can.
The line is 5 people deep here, so it's ridiculous.
We weren't sure how long we were going to be here, so we thought we better come prepared.
And with the long lines, many worried for those arriving after business hours.
Well, I'm just worried about the people that can only leave work 4 hours before the end of polls. And look what's going to happen. It's not going to be funny.
According to the Director General of Elections, citizens may arrive at polling stations until 8 p.m. At that point, the returning officer will stand at the end of the line and turn away the latecomers. Voters are advised not to push the limits, as not all watches are synchronized. Jennifer Fraser, Pulse News.
Still almost 2 hours left before the polls close. Let's see how voting is going at this hour. Colleen Thorpe joins us live from a polling station on Pine Avenue in downtown Montreal. Are the lineups still long there?
There are no lineups here right now. I'm at Saint-Marie-Saint-Jacques, and that's the south end of the plateau. It's been coming in fits and starts. It's very quiet at this point. We checked the polling, we checked the voter turnout at 5:30, and at that point there were 62.5% of the electorate who had come out province-wide. That's 10% more than in the last elections. And I just want you to notice one thing. Here is a sign, and they've always insisted that you have to put these marks if you want to vote, and it's very important. Some people overlook it. And some people tend to maybe want to put an asterisk to really emphasize how they're voting. But if the vote is tight, they're going to be looking at all of the votes and eliminating the ones that don't correspond to these marks. So, Bill?
Good advice, Colleen. Thank you.
Getting the vote out is important. It's so important that backroom organizers are pulling out all the stops. And so important is today's vote that some Quebecers have decided to vote for the very first time. Robert Varro has more.
She is 100 years old, and today is the first time she is going to vote in Canada. Edith Penny Cook, born in 1895, came to Quebec from Jamaica when she was only 78. But never has she felt it more important to cast a ballot than today.
There you go, Edith. You're there.
So they wheeled her into the polling booth in Kirkland to cast that all-important vote.
Congratulations.
She said the country has been good to her, otherwise she wouldn't be here today.
Yes, but if it didn't good to me, I wouldn't be here.
If we are to believe the polls, and most of us do, it's down to the wire. And at 50-50 on this referendum day, voting day, the big responsibility falls on the shoulders of the backroom organizers. They have been mandated to get the vote out.
Great. We'll have somebody there probably by 12:30 or something.
Okay. As soon as I hear from him, I'm passing over.
Oui, je sais, mais c'est un problème urgent.
As I connect people that require transportation with those that have volunteered to drive people around.
Brisk? Is it brisk?
Yes, it is, actually, and we have to keep a lot of drivers on standby because we get a lot of spontaneous calls of people requiring assistance immediately.
Maintenant, Thérèse, puis lui s'appelle Capitaine. Capitaine. Capitaine, il nous dit, c'est fort.
And in East End Mercier riding, home of the Péquistes since 1976, the story is a bit different. Workers are calling every name on the voters list only to find out they have already voted or they're motivated enough to get to the polling station on their own. So great is the turnout. It makes life easier for the riding campaign director.
So far, so good. We get some people here waiting for to bring the people to the poll station, but so far we have.
You find it normal?
Yeah, it's pretty quiet on that side. We have lots of people who come here to help us, and but they are waiting because we don't have any job to do.
No matter, working the phones won't stop until the polls close. It's that close a race. It's that important to vote. Robert Faro, Pulse News.
Of course, the emotional speeches, the dire warnings, the political rhetoric, all of that is past. It's now the people's turn to speak. The leaders were amongst the first to cast ballots today. Here again is Colleen Thorpe.
Our big job today is not campaigning, but getting their vote out, whether it's by phoning people and encouraging them to vote or by actually picking them up and driving them to the polling station. Paul Carvalho has that story.
One jump and you're set.
Pauline St. Peter Gall told her family she would not be left behind today. Even though she rarely ventures out of the house anymore, she's 105 years old.
I'm going up to vote for Canada.
The people who took her to vote are part of a huge grassroots machine working for the No Committee in Notre-Dame-de-Grâce.
We had people in wheelchairs. We had people that practically all our members of our committee here have been carrying to the polls. It's incredible.
People here use the computer to find out who hasn't voted yet. Then calls go out to more than 100 volunteers everywhere in this riding. Their job? Remind those who haven't voted yet that this is the big day. The organizers here even got a little help from their friends.
They came in from Vancouver, they came in from Mississauga, they came in from Ottawa. We had MPs from Nova Scotia and PEI. So we were having a grand time here.
But beneath the optimism lurks the fear.
We're working hard and doing the best we can. We'll hope it's not too little too late.
Hoping against hope. A stark contrast with the mood in the yes camp. Here in Bourget riding, they're already preparing for the party they're sure they're going to have tonight. Mostly Francophone Bourget is a bellwether riding. It's gone with a winning side on every election and referendum since 1976. And at Yes headquarters, they have that winning feeling again.
Moi, je crois qu'on devrait remporter le comté de Bourget facilement.
We'll easily win in Bourget, says Doris Maurice. But despite the party mood, no one is slacking off.
I want to make sure that everybody is going to be involved. So I said, if I want everybody to be involved, the first job to do is to be involved myself.
Total involvement is what both sides have in common.
There you go.
Pauline St. Peter Gall is only slightly younger than Confederation. She wants it to last well after she's gone. Paul Carvalho, CBC News, Notre-Dame-de-Grâce.
Well, through all the work by the volunteers, through all the tension and the waiting, the Canadian dollar actually closed up a little bit today in trading.
Back in 1980, thousands of Yes supporters reacted angrily to the No victory. There were some acts of violence as demonstrators marched through downtown Montreal. 15 years later, the police want to make sure everyone remains calm, no matter which way the vote swings.
We don't really expect to have a whole lot of trouble, but our Senate operation is ready and be working all night.
There will be a noticeable police presence in the streets, but they're not the only ones worried. Crash barriers will be installed outside the No headquarters at the Metropolis Club. There will be tight security at the Palais des Congrès, where sovereignists will watch the results. Most media outlets are prepared for the worst. The CBC tower was turned into a fortress. The Montreal Gazette, often the target of nationalists, is also on the edge. It's located a block away from Yes headquarters. Then there are downtown merchants. They went through 2 standing-up riots in the last 10 years. They're concerned some people may want to take advantage of an explosive situation this evening.
We're going to take out most of the merchandise from the windows, put some 4x8 sheets of plywood right up to the glass, bring our steel gate down, and hope for the best.
On sait pas là qu'est-ce que ça va donner. De toute façon, faut pas commencer à s'énerver, sinon on dormira pas cette nuit là.
I just don't feel that it's going to be any trouble, no.
Provincial police say they haven't taken any special precautions for tonight, but they also say they will be on standby should anything go wrong. Stéphane Giroux, Pulse News.
And the Quebec referendum has international scope.
That's right, all over the world there are concerns about the outcome.
The United States is keeping close tabs on the referendum.
Canada is America's single largest trading partner, so naturally the United States has a special interest in the outcome. Bob Zelnick reports.
Quebecers insist that if they do secede from Canada, the U.S. will simply gain another friend, another good neighbor. An independent Quebec would, its leaders say, seek to join the North American Free.
Tightness of the race. Journalists from around the world are here to report on a vote that may have repercussions in their countries. Chris McDermott reports.
So it's too close to call, and turnout is tremendous.
It wasn't supposed to be a big international story. But that changed when Lucien Bouchard took over the reins of the separatist forces, putting the yes side in front. That's when ABC News anchor Peter Jennings decided to come.
To be honest, I think it probably has something to do with the fact that I'm Canadian and the reporters I brought with me happen to be Canadian. Canadians have done reasonably well in American journalism, and they are at all networks.
He's not alone. Over 400 reporters from around the world are in Quebec to cover the event. Like Jennings, many networks decided to come only when the outcome was suddenly in doubt.
All of a sudden, we've had sort of parachute extra troops in to deal with the story because it's become much, much bigger than we thought it would be. It made bigger for us in Britain, particularly by the great radio hoax involving Monsieur Brassard and Her Majesty the Queen, which made for a very quiet weekend on our part.
But despite the success of some pranksters, there is widespread surprise among foreign reporters at the tone of the debate.
That with all the demonstrating pro and contra, the feeling, okay, the day after we'll get together, we'll sit down, this is something that strikes people in Europe. It still is maybe the most tolerant country on earth.
Chris McDermott, Pulse News.